Did you know that if you love the GAA and if you have a family business and if you play Irish music or holiday in Ireland, if you're critical of RTE and support Irish filmmaking and maybe keep hens and think potatoes are tasty, your Family A in an SPHE handbook being used in Irish schools since 2023. And it's very obvious that Family A are not just inferior to diverse families, but they are probably bigoted, insular and small-minded as well. Now, this chapter in the SPHE book, ironically entitled All Different, All Equal, was brought to the attention of Carol Nolan TD by a furious parent who said that her 12-year-old son had come home from school with it, having started first year this week. And we asked Dr. Conor Reidy to have a look at this for us, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Conor.
Hello, Fran. How are you today?
Good to talk to you. Conor, I was absolutely... I thought it was unshockable at this stage, but this is unbelievable. This is at a whole different level.
Yeah, I think I come from Family A myself in so many ways.
Me too.
Which makes me question a lot of my whole identity. It is very, very shocking. It's very disturbing, to say the least. And people should, I believe, not that I would want to tell people how to think, but I think people should be upset by this. Family A is, and for anyone that's read it, and I think you have it up on the Tipp FM socials at this point, so people can find the page quite easily. Family A is probably, for an entity that does not exist, in my opinion, in anything beyond a handful of extreme cases in Ireland. Now, let's call a spade here. Even the most traditional of families, and by the way, this book means something else when it says traditional, but we'll get to that in a minute. I believe even the most traditional of families are not so insular that they build a wall against everything that is alien to them, that is foreign to them, and their way of life. I just think the world does not work like that. Okay, so even if you are vociferously cling on to traditions and the traditional way and, you know, Ireland for the Irish and all of that nonsense, the Ireland for the Irish nonsense, you know, at the same time, the world just doesn't. You have to interact. Family A is a family that does not interact. Family A is hyper-traditional. Fair enough. People are allowed to be traditional. They're huge proponents of traditional Irish music, Irish film, sport, food, television. In itself, there's nothing wrong with this. Let's just say that out
Nothing at all
straight.
wrong with it.
Okay,
No.
Nothing wrong with that. However, the problem begins from because the book introduces something else that is at the subliminal level, that is at that place just below the threshold of our consciousness. And it's putting something into the minds of the reader, i.e. school students, and it's shaping their minds without them realising it. Now, let me just tease that out if you don't mind. This family A in this example, are champions of these things to the exclusion of all others. Okay? Film,
Yes.
sport, food, music, television, to the exclusion of everything else. Crucially, the parents in Family A are depicted as controlling and authoritarian. And then we have, because the parents are dictating to the children that they can't mix, that they can't do that. And then we have what I would call the subconscious hand grenade here. The children are not permitted to mix with their peers from other cultures and traditions. And this is where the subliminal messaging enters. Because that control, that authoritarianism, that racism is spelled out in the same case study, in the same paragraph, as a list of Irish traditions, such as music, film, sport, television,
So
food, and so on.
the connection is there. The
link is established.
Yeah.
The family that embraces tradition can only be seen as racist and anti-diversity. So this, to me, is a clear attempt to link the concept of traditionalism with racism and intolerance. And the reality, as I believe it, however, is that this very extreme Family A, as I said at the start, does not exist. Elements of it exist.
It doesn't.
But
And then you get to Family B, which is obviously preferable, Conor, according to the book.
Yeah. And Family B is okay too. You know, and I haven't, by the way, I'm only guessing, speculating what Family B is, because I haven't seen or maybe I missed the description of family B. But the family B, I'm sure, is actually okay.
Yes, but not for them. Not for them would be the GAA or traditional Irish music, and they're depicted as having smartphones and pizzas, and they got sort of fashionable glasses, and they're kind of super mad crack, and they love to travel and all of that. Again, as you say, as if that that you couldn't have a mixture of all of this.
Well, this is it. That talk about anti-discrimination. I mean, the level of discrimination here. The book, the example is literally categorising people. It's literally pitting people into their own lanes, where those two lanes cannot cross, where they have to, where they cannot intersect. The level of bias here is shameful, Fran, and no author or publisher should be proud to stand over this, especially as the book is an educational tool and it's aimed at minds and brains that are essentially still growing, mindsets that are still to be developed, human beings that are still being shaped. And they're separating these worlds, as I say, this super traditional world. And we all know families where there are strong traditional elements, but those families, will still sit down and have a pint with a non-national. Do you know what I mean?
Of course,
sit down and have a pint with someone that's not of their own tradition, of their own.
Yeah, and I mean, I know people who play trad music but would love jazz, for example. I know people who eat bacon and cabbage, but equally they'll go and have a tikka masala at the weekend.
This is pitting people against each other. It's pitting traditions against each other, and it's absolutely shameful. Fran, I edit and write for a living, as you know, a copy editor. I work in publishing, in a sense. I recently received a book project for editing from an important Irish museum, and the book is on a historical figure, aspects of their life and their legacy from revolutionary Ireland. Now, it's a museum publication. The book was written by a historian, and one of the things that the client, which is the museum, not the historian, not the author, but the museum who's publishing the book, they were very concerned with, was that I would identify and try to eliminate any author bias that may have unwittingly crept in. That was their and is their greatest priority for me as an editor on this project, to eliminate all of that. There is something very, very troubling at work in this SPHE book, that they are. There's clearly, and believe me, it gives so-called conspiracy theorists and
it fuels
others,
it, doesn't it? It
fuel,
really fuels it
for their argument that there is a greater game at play here rather than just the basic education. School textbooks, Fran, should aim to provide an impartial education, and students need access to balanced information so that they can develop. We spoke the last time I was on with you about, I was on the Friday panel a few weeks ago, and we talked about believing certain that students need access to balanced information so that they can develop critical thinking skills and form their own opinions. Now, so that absolutely includes, in a book like this, includes spelling out the need for diversity. But this is pushing it. If a textbook is biased, it risks shaping young minds with a particular agenda rather than encouraging their independent thought. This is crushing their independent thought. And the cartoon that goes with it, by the way, the cartoon that goes with it is disgusting. It's absolutely despicable in how it depicts the traditional Irish family. Social studies often cover topics related to identity and relationships and health and societal norms. Now, and so they should. If a textbook is biased, Fran, it might only present one viewpoint, neglecting the diversity of perspectives that exist in society. The traditional is a perspective that exists in society, in any country, anywhere in the world. And this could lead students to feeling excluded or misinformed about key social issues. You're a student and you're a young person, 12, 13, 14, and let's say there's a lot of elements of family A in your book. Of your family in that example.
If it's Irish
study.
Dancing or GAA,
you're going to be putting your head down in class. You really are. For parents and educators and students to trust the system, Fran, to trust the education system, it's essential that the learning materials are credible and they're fair.
Yes.
And this something like this erodes trust.
Does this have to come through? Because you know about this stuff. I mean, if somebody develops a book and they want it on a curriculum, does this have to come through a department inspection in some? How does that work, Conor?
Yeah, I understand that it does. Now, I'm not au fait with the absolute mechanics of that, but I will say that the book absolutely has to reflect the curriculum, and so would have to be approved as a learning material before it could be, as I understand it, before it could be marketed to teachers.
And just for people who might be too sure, maybe you don't have young kids and the like, SPHE, it's the Junior Psychosocial Personal and Health Education, and some of the aims there are to build self-awareness and positive self-worth. Now,
yeah, and this is a laudable thing. This is a laudable notion. This is very important. I'm not 100 years old, but I mean, when I was in school, Fran, there was nothing almost like this. Do you know what I mean? And so CSPE is another one, and civic, social and political education. And these are important subjects because they're sometimes seen, by the way, and wrongly so, in my opinion, as kind of softly, and they're kind of soft core subjects as opposed to the big ones like maths and English and Irish and languages. But at the same time, they're so important because they're allowing or should be allowing and should be encouraging children to think. But that's not a realistic example.
Sadly, I'm out of time because we could talk about this for a lot longer.
Well, we should talk about it, and people should be talking about it.
All right. Well, we will certainly go back to it. Conor, we appreciate your time, and thank you very much indeed. Dr. Conor Reidy there. We'll take a break. Back in just a moment.